Hare Krishna, and welcome to this fourth video on Bhagavad-gita, verse 7, chapter 4. So it's time for the fourth and last sentence, and let's see if we can get this to work here. Let's do that, number 4 there. All right, so we have He Arjuna. Arjuna. Line 1. Yadam Hip Dharmasya Glani Hip Bhavati. Bhavati. And then what we have, line 3, Adharmasya Adharmasya Abhyutanam Abhyutanam Bhavati. And tada aham atmanam manam srijami. Like that. That's the 4 lines that we're going to talk about here. And the first thing we can notice is that this 4th line here is exactly like line 2 of sentence number 3. So at that time I create myself, or at that time I manifest myself. Okay, now the difference is that first of all we start with Hey Arjuna, which we haven't had before. So we're introducing these two words which are addressing Arjuna. And as you may already know, the usage of He always is followed by a person in the vocative. So it's not, so Arjuna here is not nominative, it's vocative case. And this is important to notice. And also another thing to note about this expression here is that Arjuna is not, first of all, that Arjuna itself, that word is not in the final Gita verse. But I'm using Arjuna here in just to be very explicit, because the other word that is in the final verse is Bharata, and that means descendant of the Bharata, the clan, or the royal family. And a descendant, as anyone knows, can be anyone that is born in that family, headed by Bharat Maharaj. And so this is not Bharata as a term, as a nickname of someone is not terribly clear. So therefore I chose here in our special sentences Arjuna instead. And another thing also is that the word He is also not in the final Gita verse, but what I'm doing here is that I'm trying to replicate the mood in which Sanskrit commentators do things, and they usually do this, that they have the word He explicit, not just Arjuna, but He Arjuna, to clarify that it's a form of addressing. All right, so this is done then, and then we have line 2 and 3 here left, and you note here immediately that tada here and the yada up here, as we saw in number 3, now is yada up here instead. And by adding another yada, we get the sense of more indefiniteness. So while yada on its own would mean when, yada would mean whenever, or even whenever and or wherever, something like that. And then, and also, just like he here, all of these words like tada, yada, and he are indeclinable, so that we never change their endings or anything like that. These are not nouns or pronouns or verbs. These are indeclinables. So we can, whenever we see them, they're always the same. Except for Sandhi, of course, but we're not using Sandhi here in these exercises. All right, so yada, yada, he, and so whenever, and then he here adds a certain kind of definiteness or a certain certainty. So we can be sure that whenever and wherever this condition applies, then Krishna will manifest himself in the material world. So now let's talk about the new terms here. We have this grouping here. We have a genitive form here. And we have a nominative here. So if glani is a feminine word, and therefore this is nominative. And I forgot to say this before, but the reason why this is important just was, I should have done this in sentence number 3 here, but I should have said up here that since we have the verb bhavati, we don't talk about objects and subjects like that, really, because bhavati doesn't control anything. Bhavati is just like a copula. And so it's, regardless of whether bhavati is in present tense or imperfect or whatever it is. So that means that if you want to have two terms, like let's say you want to have non-dharma up here and something else, you want to make a statement that non-dharma is like a house or something. Just for as an example, then both words, both non-dharma and the house, would be in nominative. So that's the point here. So that we should note that dharma is in nominative. And so, like here also, we have nominative here. So this is a grouping here. So the nominative here is so glanihi, which is the feminine noun, singular, means decline. So the decline of dharma is like that. Bhavati. So whenever there is a decline in dharma, that means this is line 2 then. And a similar thing is going on in line 3. But I've made this in parentheses now just to simplify things here. But it's the same idea, that you have two terms here, one of which is in genitive and the other in nominative. And we can see here that the end is an ending here. And this ending comes from it's a neuter nominative. And this is abhyutanam, is a rise. So it's a rise in adharma. So that concludes part number 4, and Hare Krishna.